I do want to talk about portion control. I think that's something that a lot of us struggle with, and it's mainly because we just don't have the information to put ourselves in the mindset of how much of something should I eat. Because unfortunately, at fast food restaurants, at really any restaurant that you go out to, even if it's a sit-down, dine-in restaurant, our portions are so large that we don't know what to do. We don't know how full our stomachs actually are, and that's a really big problem. So what I want to kind of show you is what your plate should look like. And I will bring out 2 different plates. So this is a typical size of a dinner plate. It's rather large. This is what I have at my house, but you can see that there's a lot of space. So if you fill your entire plate with food, you're gonna feel like you have to eat it all. And if you don't eat it all, your body might say, well, I must be still hungry, or I'm gonna be hungry later because I didn't eat it all. So my suggestion is choose a smaller plate. So this one is just a little bit smaller than this one. I can still fill it, but it's gonna be less food overall, and you're gonna feel accomplished because when you finish this plate, you've actually eaten the right amount of portions, but it's not overdoing it. So start with a smaller plate. That's a great way to do it, but I also want to teach you how you should set up your plate. So with most of your meals, your vegetables should be the largest portion of your plate. It should be about half to 2/3 of the plate. So depending on what your meal looks like, vegetables should be primarily what you're putting on your plate. And you're probably asking why. Why are vegetables so important? They're high in nutrients. They're low in calories. They have a great water intake. All of those things are very, very important, especially as you're exercising more and getting yourself ready for a preseason. It's also loaded with fiber. If you don't understand what fiber is yet, fiber kind of helps with your digestion. It helps with getting yourself ready for bowel movements, which are really important. You need to make sure that we just talked about that with our hydration video too. We need to make sure we're looking at our urine output. We also have to be very conscious of our bowel movements too. Those are really important, that you're on a regular schedule. So that's why vegetables are so important for your plate. The other thing is that carbs and grains should only be 1/4 of this plate, so very small. So if you're putting rice or pasta or something on your plate, that should only be a tiny section. In addition to that, proteins should only be 1/4 of the plate. So if you're looking at this plate, 1/4 of the plate is carbs, 1/4 of the plate is proteins, and then the other half is all vegetables. So whatever that looks to you, you can make that choice, but that's just the best way of a visual that I can give you for portion control. Fruit is used best as a snack or in lieu of a dessert. So we all love desserts, we all have sweet tooth, but choosing fruit as your primary source of sugar intake is the best way to get that satisfied. So having maybe an apple cut up with some peanut butter or some berries at the end of your meal. You can mix it with certain things. You don't have to have just straight fruit, but having that as your primary sugar intake instead of grabbing for that soda or that yogurt in the morning is really gonna make your body feel better. Some other portioning tips I'd like to give you: start with a glass of water right when you start your meal, when you're eating, because you're actually not gonna trick your body, but your body's gonna respond to that, and you might actually surprise yourself, because sometimes we sit down for a meal and we're like, oh, I'm starving. But when you drink that glass of water, your body's gonna tell you whether or not you're actually still hungry. So after you drink that glass of water, you might be like, oh, I'm actually not hungry anymore. That's because you're actually dehydrated and you need water instead of food. Another one, like I said, eat on a smaller plate. Try not to scoop more than necessary. Don't have overflowing portions. Avoid eating from a box or a bag. How many times do we go into a Cheez-It box or some kind of a snack box and just start doing the mindless eating? If we're sitting in front of a TV or chatting with friends or on the phone, try to avoid that, because let's see here. Serving size is 27 crackers, which is a pretty good handful, but how many times have we sat down and been like, oh, I just ate 3/4 of the box? So be aware of what you're eating.